Hey guys, Ben Paints here, and today we are back once again for another Monday night social event at Teamsport Bristol. Now, before we get into the main part of the video, I just wanted to say thank you very much to all of the recent support and views and likes and comments on the recent videos, as they really have been quite a few, and I really do appreciate it. And that leads on to me saying, if you are new here, could you please subscribe to the channel, as I really do appreciate it and it really does help me, and also like the video as well if you do like what you see. But here we move straight into the Monday night social, and this was a bit of a tough one for me. I found that I was unable to find a lot of free space on the track. There was a fully booked session, and I was put into the first session of the evening compared to the second one that I've been alternating between, trying to find which is better for me. But here we are in the first one. This is in fact the third session of 3 for the evening, and we've gone round on a first lap of a 40.463, so no blistering times yet again. Quite slow to start off with, as I was warming up and trying to find my rhythm coming into the third session. We're coming round the bottom corner here, going a little bit wider than we normally do, but we were still able to follow the contours of the track quite well, and that led us straight down to 38.777 lap, and trying to stay very neat and tidy to the first few corners there, try and get as tight as possible to the apex. I saw the few drivers up ahead, and I really wanted to try and get past them as quickly as possible and try and find a gap on the track where I could try and set some quick lap times, as the other two sessions that I've been in on this evening, I really had been stuck behind a lot of people. I was unable to make it past, so I decided to slow down and try and find some more space. But even by doing that, I couldn't find any additional room on the track to really try and show my prowess. But there, once again, a 38.818, I'm really closing up to the other drivers ahead of me there. Again, really is a little bit of a train forming, and I really want to try and get past quickly as possible. You can see there the person in car number 21 lunging it down the inside of the person in the orange suit, and I decided to follow them through and try and maintain the course to get ahead of this small group, and really getting in tight here to the top two hairpins. I found that this week I really had a little bit more of control over the car, and you can see that compared to the driver on the left, as they do slip wider. But through the corners I had a lot more grip and a lot more control, and this was obviously down to, if you have been following over on my Instagram, which is linked down below, but through me putting on a fair bit of weight in the last week. And by doing this, I really felt that the car was a lot more planted going through the mid-section of the corner, especially in the top section here. There was barely any sliding unless I went in a bit too fast, and the same on the first corner of the track. I was really able to keep my foot on the throttle almost all the way down on the throttle, which I'm really not used to doing, and this really then led to me having a really good exit into the second corner. You can see there the lap that was just done there was actually one of the fastest of the session so far, with 38.332, and that is our fastest lap of the session. And I really was beginning to motor at this point. I was finding my groove, but you can see up ahead once more that there were a fair few drivers sort of dotted around, and I was having to make my way through each of them, and this of course would slow me down eventually. But as I mentioned, in terms of weight, by gaining a fair few kilograms over the last week, I have actually managed to scrape my way into the heavyweight category for the BIKC. So I have in fact swapped up to heavyweight instead of middleweight, and this might be a bit of a surprise to some of you, seeing as I was in the second place ranked position for the middleweights. However, I stepped on the scales on Thursday night last week, or maybe it was the week before, and it did in fact read 87 kilos with all the kit included. And obviously this, as I've mentioned in the previous video, is very high compared to the 75 kilo threshold from 75 to 90 kilos, and therefore I really thought that if I pushed up into the heavyweight category, I'd have a bit more of an even battle with people around my weight, or me even having a bit of an advantage by being a little bit lighter. So I decided to just eat essentially for the last week and really put the pounds on, and this has led to me now being able to enter myself into the heavyweight category compared to the middleweight, and I think that there will be a bit more of a better battle in that group, as I think that there's 2 or 3 drivers alongside me that really will be able to keep pace and have a really good battle. However, you may have seen in the background of the footage there has been a little bit of argy-bargy going on, as I have been just talking, rambling, and essentially I was really trying to get past the 2 drivers ahead of me, as I felt I was getting a little bit stuck here. I really was looking for the inside here, but the driver in the orange really closed the door. I then looked to the left hand side to try and make a move on the driver ahead of me, and I actually managed to take both of them in one corner, so this gave me a nice bit of room to work with. So here I went a little bit slower around the last corner to try and get as good an exit as I possibly could, and I came across the line now with 39.195, so we started out on a bit of a quicker lap here with a lot more room. There were a few mistakes dotted throughout the session as well. I felt that I did go a little bit wide on some corners, especially the bottom hairpin, which you may see later. I found myself sliding a little bit and not having as much control as I'd like, and this then obviously was causing me to have a slower lap time overall. It wasn't the best session, but it was one that I was reasonably happy with compared to how the lap times have been in the past, especially on the new tyres, which still haven't bedded in properly yet. We could see straight away across the line 38.500. However, I am straight up behind the back of another driver immediately, and I didn't want to get stuck behind them, so I lunged straight down the inside and took the position off them, and was just making sure that I had enough room on track to try and get some good lap times in. As I mentioned, from swapping weight classes, I now want to try and get a high 37 session if I can, to a 37.8, 37.9, but instead at the moment you can see we're at 38.3, so around half a second off where I'd like to be at this point in the session, due to the nature of the kart conditions and also the amount of traffic that was on track, and it was really slowing me down and some of the other drivers down. But I was trying to stay as neat and tidy through the bottom section that I could, really get close to the apex. It's that bottom hairpin there, that was a pretty good corner, as I was able to maintain the slip angle through the second half of the corner, and this really gave me a little bit of a propulsion up the ramp. And this is something I noticed I was struggling with this week, as I was a little bit heavier, and going up and down the ramp I did feel that I was a little bit slower compared to where I usually was. So you can see here there was a yellow flag, so I really wanted to slow down and make sure that if there were any drivers ahead of me that they would sort of pull away. You can see 2 drivers there, just, I guess they've collided with each other, but I did have a little chuckle when I drove past to myself. But once again I can see a driver up ahead. I just tried to keep the tyres warm, tried to keep them in focus essentially for when I was ready to go away, and here I got really slowed the pace down compared to how I usually drive under yellow flags. And as I go green I did have a little bit of space once more before I reached the driver ahead, so really tucking in to the 2 hairpins at the top of the ramp, and then coming down and really trying to get a good exit out of the bottom right hander, as that is a very big corner that can really make or break your lap if you get a bit too much on the accelerator too early, as it really does make the back end of the kart slide out. And the same here on the bottom hairpin, really getting in tight but going a little bit wide there and getting a little bit too much of the slip angle, and that meant that I was lost a bit of time coming out the corner, really getting tight here through the fast right hander at the top before the 2 hairpins, and really managing my trail braking this week going into the first hairpin at the top of the hill, as I was really able to keep my foot in about halfway on the pedal and really start to slowly bring it down, and this meant that I had a lot more traction coming out of the corner compared to other weeks when I've sort of darted into the corner, and this has led to me sliding a little bit and losing a lot of momentum. In theory as well, it really is argued that having more weight really does slow you down, and overall it does slow you down a lot on the straights and up the ramp at this track in particular. But obviously the straights here aren't really long enough to notice the speed difference, but you really could notice it up and down the ramp, as I came up against some of the smaller drivers that probably or arguably about half my weight, and they really did seem to fly up the ramp. But as we go onto this lap here, this was in fact my fastest lap of the race. You could see my fastest lap so far is a 38.332, and then my next lap, or the lap that I just completed, sorry, was a 38.389. so we really did want to try and work on this and try and get down as close as we could to a 37-second lap, much like we did last time we headed here today, and really tight and compact into the apexes of the two hairpins. And the same here with the exit out of the last corner, really going wide and trying to keep it as straight as possible. We come across the line with 38.329, so not the best lap ever, but also not the worst. We almost completely T-boned that driver who was completely burged into the wall on the Mickey Mouse section. But unfortunately this was just a session that was plagued with yellow flags and traffic, and I'm unsure why there was so much traffic and yellow flags compared to normal, but I was just unable to find my rhythm and really find a decent amount of lap time. So here throughout the rest of the session, there wasn't any more blistering lap times. All the other laps that you're about to see are sort of just plagued with traffic or just yellow flags or just having to be slow really. So really nailing the first corner, getting a good drive, and here I wanted to try and let the driver past who was behind me to try and give myself a bit more space, much like I did earlier. So here you can see I was looking back just to check who was behind me, and a matter of fact one of the members, Harley, was behind me, so I wanted to try and allow him to follow me through on a couple of laps as well, and hopefully try and help him to improve his lap time. So you can see as it's gotten closer, we've really started to take off here and try and maintain the gap that we've now made, which is really small to the drivers that were behind me. There was a little train that had formed behind Harley of about 2 or 3 drivers, so I didn't really want to hold these people up either and really start to be the thing that I hated. So you can see there, by slowing down a 49.196, or a ridiculously slow lap, and we really started to try and focus on putting some good lap times in. I didn't realise at this point in the session that we were actually coming towards the end of the session. We are only a couple of laps away from really going back into the pits and finishing for the evening. Obviously I didn't quite realise this, so if I had, I may have not slowed down as much, and I probably would have carried on trying to maintain a bit of a flow state, as I mentioned so many times, try and stay consistent. But you can see there, really getting a nice tidy line coming out of the big right hander, and it leads us straight down to a 38.625. I was really looking to motor on from this and try and keep the momentum going, as there was a lot of clean air ahead of me. And here really sliding into the corner, but getting it a little bit wrong. You can see there just hitting the wall on the side, and you can see here more yellow flags, so having to slow down, and it wasn't even like a big set of yellow lights, so I just had to slow down and speed up straight away. So it was pretty much just a wasted lap at this point, as I've had to brake on the section where I usually go almost flat out. We come round again and come across the line here, as we come across with a 40.179. I didn't realise, but this was in fact the end of the session. You can see here popping up on the right hand side, these are the current BIKC standings for the heavyweights, and you can see that I am in 8th position, not by much, and hopefully we can start to build on that throughout the rest of qualifying. However, this does bring us to the end of the video, and I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed making it. If you have enjoyed, could you please hit the like button down below and subscribe for more in the future. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.